Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. It is the Daily Dish, and you're here. Jocelyn, so good to have you here. I'm so glad you're here and in the house. And anybody else who's there and listening and a part of our show, thank you so much for showing up. It means the world to me. I especially want to talk about today's show. I'm kind of excited about it and want to share some things. You know, shows always are inspired by my whoopsie daisies. Hey, Rebecca. They're always inspired by something that's going on in my own life. It's something that sometimes I will just clip it right out of, making a mess. Clip it right out of my journal, which has like 2 pages left. Sometimes I'll clip it right out of my life. Today, it's going to be right out of my life. And I'm going to just share some things that are going to, what I believe are going to really, really help you out. Tanya, good to see you. She's just stopping by, 1,000-day Tanya, stopping by to say hello. I know she'll be back. So today we're going to be talking about procrastination. And I want to talk about this in a different sort of way. I am going to give you some tips. I am going to give you some ideas. And it's all going to be science-backed. But it's relating to something that happened in my own life that nearly cost me. And I'll explain that in a little while. Meanwhile, hi, Linda, by the way. Good to have you here, Rebecca. Meanwhile, we've got a really great quote of the week. I love a good quote of the week. I love something that's going to spark my imagination, is going to make me a little bit curious. It's going to help me to dig into my heart, into my soul, into my brain with what's going on, and to help me to, get to that place of, again, leveling up. And that's what we're here for. Every single day is an opportunity to level up. Every single day is an opportunity to become the very best that you can possibly be. That's all. Otherwise, why are we here? We're here on purpose and for purpose. And those nuggets that we learn, those nuggets that we glean, are things that we can put into the equation and help us to be, again, the very best that we can be. So here's a good one. This is a fabulous quote. The world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. It's really easy to flap your gums. Am I right? It's really easy to just like la, 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 and then just go on and do something else. But the fact of the matter is, no one is looking at what it is that you're saying. They're looking at how you're living your life. Your children especially. That's a piece of humble pie right there as you're raising kids, isn't it? Because you find yourself in the place of saying one thing, obviously doing another, and then your kids happily point it out to you, don't they? That's just the way it works. Catherine, hi. Glad you're here. That's just the way it works. But I will tell you right now that if we can ingrain this into our hearts, into our minds, into our souls, into our life, that our example is the thing that's going to speak the loudest, then we can start seeing the change that we all need. We can start making that change. We can be those women. Jane's in the house, everyone. Hey, Jane. So I love this. The world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. Not by your opinion. Keep it up. Hey, Chris from California. I'm so glad you're here. So we're just going to let that one sit and marinate. I always say, take these quotes, throw them into your journal, and just, cogitate on them a little bit. Noodle around with them and see, how does this land? How does this apply to my own life? We also have carb cutter. We're going to go again with that carb cutter. Do you know why? Hi, Carol in Asheville, just up the street. Do you know why I'm going to keep going with that carb cutter? Because the demand has been so great on this carb cutter. I shared a little story on how carb cutter has been such an integral part of my lifestyle and has really helped me out a lot. It seemed to resonate with you. And I'll tell you, if you get your carb cutter, you're going to get a buy one, get one. It's real simple. Go to savingdinner.com/carb cutter. We still have some supplies, but it's getting smaller. So go grab it. Okay? Deal? The other thing that I want to remind you is this Monday coming up, we have the Vibrant Body Detox. Now, this is where we're really all about stimulating our body's own natural detoxification system. You know, our bodies are equipped to detox. Our bodies detox every single day. Of course. Every time you pee, you're detoxing, by the way. And when you poop, yeah, of course. When you sweat, you're detoxing. But this supplement and this program that we have all assists in helping you to get the job done a little bit better, a little bit more. And I just call it a spring cleaning. Let's just be real. Sometimes you have to take the curtains down and wash them. My husband doesn't think so, but I do. You just have to do that little bit extra. That's what this is about. Fabulous program, and you are going to love it. You can find it at savingdinner.com/restore. That's to sign up for the webinar that is going to be happening on Monday, April 15th. That's this coming Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You got to grab a seat. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I don't want anybody thinking, oh my gosh, she's doing this, weirdo celebrity induced kind of detox thing. I'm not. What I'm trying to do here is to help you and your body to do the job that it's already created to do, just a little bit better. Plus getting this clean eating situation down and all the rest of it. It's a really good place to start. Don't you think? So check it out. Go get your seat, savingdinner.com/restore. Restore. Love Vibrant Body Detox. Feels so good. Doesn't it, Chris? It does. Oh, and the other thing that I want to mention is it's a very gentle program. There's no, you're not going to be running to the bathroom and just saying, hey, get everybody out of my way, or having to stop on the highway or any of that kind of garbage. It's an assist. It's a gentle support, shall we say. And I love this. This is, I personally went through this with our formulator. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. Help me to formulate this in a way that does the job, but without the disruption, if you know what I'm saying. So that's what this is all about. And I'm really excited to do it. We haven't done it in just a while. So, and remember the other thing, the other component of this whole thing is when we are together as a community doing something like this, the momentum is just, it's palpable. And this feeling of community is well, the science is just very clear on it, that when we do things in community, we do things better, we do things more complete, and we feel like we're not alone. No woman is an island, y'all. Not a single one. savingdinner.com/restore. Let's do it. Same night as the WNBA draft. Yes, go Caitlin. The women's basketball. Come on, y'all. Come on. How about that? I can't remember her name, is doing all the 3-pointers. Well, she's something. And everybody is kind of going bonkers over all of that. And I think it's about time, don't you? Pinkies up. Here's to the women who are out there doing their thing. These are athletes, y'all. These are athletes. They deserve the same recognition as men. Am I right? Of course I am. Of course I am. So I gave you a hint at the very beginning of the show today that one of the things that we were wanting to do is talk about procrastination. Now, you and I both, we love Mel Robbins, right? Yeah, pinkies up. Here comes the pinkies. I love it. We love Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins always has something very pithy, and she doesn't waste her words. She just gets right to the point. And one of the things that she says that I love is that procrastination is a form of stress relief. Because what have we always traditionally thought about procrastination? We don't automatically go to, oh, it's stress relief. We automatically go to, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't get off the dime. I'm so lazy. You know the drill. You know the things that we say. But we have to understand it isn't a mere discipline issue. It is not. Well, I mean, sometimes that figures in, but it's much more complex. It goes back to our neural wiring and how we think about things. And it's rooted also in our psychology and the way that we view things. So this is important information because procrastination can be the foundational reason why our life isn't moving in the direction that we want. We put things off and then we shame ourselves and blame ourselves, and then we have this loop that we get stuck in, and this thought and these things that suddenly it's a habit then that we procrastinate on even the small things, and especially the big things. And then we have this whole shame cycle that we go through, and it's just no. Because procrastination isn't just the act of putting something off, right? It's not avoidance behavior. We have to look at the science. You know, science is our friend. Science is the thing that's going to tell us, oh, there's something more to it. This is why we talk about how our brains operate and how we have the power to manipulate our brains when we understand how they work. When we understand that we have a fear center of our brain, and when we understand that we have a command center of our brains, we could start to develop the command center more and quiet down the fear center more, which is a more primal, basic function, and start living our lives on purpose and for purpose, because that's what we're called on this planet to do. And procrastination does not have to fit into that equation of being, the queen of your fear center, because it oftentimes is. So if we understand and overcome procrastination, if we're going to get to that place, then we have to understand it is not just willpower. It isn't. It's not about just giving yourself the rah, let's go get them talk. It's about adopting strategies that are grounded in specific scientific research, because that's the needle mover. That's the thing that will make it happen. Yes, there are actionable things. Yes, it's very practical on some parts of it, but there's science involved. To me, when I hear there's science involved, that's always a relief, because then I know that this means that there's something that I can actually do about it, that I can be involved in it. And I look at it with this whole procrastination thing because I do it. And there's tons of principles. Remember I said there's psychology involved? People pleasing often goes hand in hand with procrastination. And I'm going to tell you a little story why. So I met a woman online who was in charge of the TED Talks for women here in Brevard, North Carolina. And she was one of these souls. You know how you just connect with someone? I kind of stalked her a little bit online and read her stuff and just went, oh, she's my cup of tea, 100%. And we tried connecting, very busy with certain things. And she had an injury. She had a bunch of stuff that she was dealing with. Well, she invited me to come to the talks at our movie theater in March. And I did. And I went and saw them and said, hey, are you busy now? Can we go get that glass of wine? And she said, well, let's do it another time. It just happens that way, right? And I was like, great. It'll happen. Well, I just had this stirring in my heart, like, I'm going to apply for this. I want to be a part of this. I love TED Talks. They have been, if you've hung around me, I've used a lot of this information that I've gleaned from TED Talks and spoken to you about it, because it's such needle moving, groundbreaking, life-changing stuff. And I want to be a part of that community. That's the thing. So I thought, I went on to the TED. I tried looking and trying to find the application, trying to find this and I don't want to bother her. I know she's going through all these things. I know she's got all this stuff going on. And I put it off. Well, finally, I texted her and she said, oh, we stopped taking applications. And my eyes just bugged out of my head. And I thought, this is the result of me worrying about what's she going to think. Am I pestering her too much? I don't want to be a bother. And yet she said, the other part of her text message to me was, but I will make an exception. Get me your application. This is what you need to do. So long story short, I went through and did all the things that I need. And I did the profile first, and then there was additional questions and what have you. And it's all been submitted. But my procrastination was born from the psychology of my own broken people pleasing. I put off doing what I knew I should have done in March when I went and saw this TED Talk presentation at the movie theater here in Brevard. Are you following me on? Are you tracking me with this? If this resonates with you, will you give me a pinkies up? Because I almost threw up when I realized how I could have let this opportunity slip by. I thought I had healed that. I thought I had gone beyond all of that, but I hadn't, apparently. That was me worrying, what's she going to think about me if I ask about something that I really want to do? Isn't that crazy? But that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. That's what procrastination can do. Oftentimes, it's born out of a psychology that's your own personal thing that makes things just go, you know, it's crazy. So let's take a look at some principles then that we can, all with science behind them, by the way, that we can implement in our lives to combat this idea of procrastination, that we can reclaim control over our lives and get back into the front seat of the car and drive it. You know, you're not a captive in sitting in the back seat of some, errant Uber driver driving you all over kingdom come. You can command your own life and go in the direction that you want simply by letting go of some of these things like procrastination. So let's talk about number one. First of all, here's something that we all know, and this is a very practical tip, but it's worth repeating, and there's science behind it. Oftentimes we get just overwhelmed with the enormity of a task. So we need to break them down into smaller, manageable tasks. Ever hear that before? Of course you have. But the science behind it is interesting. It's the Zeigarnik effect, okay? And that suggests that people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than completed tasks. Now hear me on this. This is important because here's the deal. This can lead to anxiety over the unfinished work, which can make starting even harder. So what we need to do is then break them down into smaller things. What do we need to do? What needs to be done? So, if you are working on your house, like we are doing the construction in our sunroom there, what's the first thing that needs to happen is break down that wall. And then you got to clean up that wall. The next thing is you do the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing after that, and you start to break it up. And as you do that, you reduce the barrier to getting started. Isn't it great? I just need to do this one thing. If I do this one thing, then I can go on to the rest of it, but I don't need to big picture it. Maybe we start there with the vision and the big picture of what it's all going to look like at the very end. But these are the things that I need to do. Only for today do I need to do X, Y, and Z. There's a relief that comes with that. It's a tangible relief. And the research shows us that, it makes the starting easier when we look at it that way. So when we know this, then we can get into that driver's seat again and break it down and get it done. And the unfinished nature of the larger task, well, that's still going to motivate us, but it's not going to overwhelm us. Does that make sense? Number two is time management techniques. There's a thing called the Pomodoro technique. We've talked about it just a little bit. As a matter of fact, Pomodoro was such a big deal, I'd say probably about 10 years ago, that they made a Pomodoro meaning tomato in Italian, because this is the Pomodoro method came from Italy, was a big tomato timer. It was really cute. And I read the Pomodoro method a while back, probably 10 years ago. And for me, it was like, this is okay, but there's science behind it, and I'm going to show you how to customize it, okay? So this is, the fact is that, again, we're going to work with our brains, because if we understand how our brains work, then we can manipulate them to the best of our abilities and get them to work in a better up-leveled way, right? So what do? We then understand that our brain works better when it's given enough adequate breaks. Now, the Pomodoro method says 25 minutes of intense work. Some people, yay, that's great. That's fantastic. Some people, they need to do it in shorter breaks. Some people, even longer breaks. For me, it just really depends. There are times where I get into my groove and I'm in flow. And you know what flow is. When you're in flow, nothing's stopping you. The ideas are coming, the creativity is rolling, the curiosity and the the whole thing is just spilling out of you. You know? This happens to me when I'm in writing mode. This happens to me when I have an idea or a project in mind. But there are times where it's just like, I just need 15 minutes, 20 minutes of just focus time to get this off my plate kind of a thing. Because all of us have times where there are these overwhelming tasks that need to get done. And there are times when we have just a pet project that we really want to work on, spend the time on. So both of them can command flow, by the way, if you use your brain and use it to your best of your ability. Remember, it's those frequent breaks that let your brain know you're going to have a time to take a rest. You're not going to have to get burned out and just sit there and burn. I used to do that with my cookbooks when I was writing cookbooks. I would sit there and I'd go through and I go, these are the recipes that I want to do, and this is what it needs to be done, and these are all the other things. Oh, and these are the sidebars. And I'd sit there and I'd get myself worked up into this lather of making things done. But you don't have to do it that way. You can just say, today I'm going to tackle the chicken recipes. Today it's going to be all about the fill in the blank stuff. And rather than let the big picture overwhelm you, it's just the simple tasks like we were talking about before, but using this time-honored method. It's honoring to your brain. It's honoring to your attention span, for some of us, exactly what I'm saying. And it's also honoring to the way that your brain works. And so when we do all of those things, it just makes it that much easier. Number 3 is to set specific measurable goals. My goodness, you know how I feel about goals. I love goals. Goals to me are, I've got this dream, here's the to-do list that goes with it, and here's the timeline. And this is how I'm going to get it done. So it takes the vague goal and it sharpens the pencil on it, doesn't it? It makes it a lot more specific. It makes it happen in specific terms. We can always see this when houses are being built or remodeling like we're doing here, or if you're a sewer or a crocheter or a needle pointer or whatever, you can see the progress. You can see things happen with it. So when we are very specific about our goals and we mobilize our effort and promote persistence along with it, we develop strategies on how we're going to do the next thing. And it just comes with our own creative spin on it, which I think is so critically important because we all do things differently. That's why I kind of balk when somebody says, oh, the Pomodoro method says, the science says it has to be 25 minutes. And I say, no, the science says it needs to be a specific point of a specific amount of time. And we get to being the creators of our own lives and the architects of how it works best for us. We get to determine what that time is. Same with setting goals. Our goals could be knocked out. Some of them could be knocked out really fast if we had like a timeline that went like this, but that doesn't work for everyone. But we need to understand that, because if your timeline's a lot longer, it doesn't mean you're procrastinating. It means you're honoring to the way that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. I hope that makes sense, because we need to have that kind of permission in our lives. Quit dismissing ourselves and say, I'm just too lazy. I just can't get it done the way so-and-so does. Because what does comparison do? It leads you right down the path of despair. It's not about what somebody else is doing against what you are doing. It's against what are you doing in order to move the ball down the field. Is it going to take you 10 minutes or is it going to be 2 minutes? Does it matter? What the point is not the speed, but the fact that it gets completed. Am I right? Yeah, that's good. Point and call. We did a whole thing on point and call. That was it was a Daily Dish a while ago. I love point and call. I think that's a really good one. The other thing that we need to do in the whole sphere of this, though, is that we need to elicit our own self-compassion, because we so often feel beat up by ourselves, others, whomever. We think the whole world is judging. We are always assuming something. We think that we're being on a stage and people are looking at us and pointing and saying things. We're in our people-pleasing mode. Guilty. But here's what the research says. Kristen Neff and others have shown that self-compassion can significantly reduce procrastination because self-compassion isn't self-criticism, right? Self-compassion is the opposite of self-criticism. Self-criticism can often lead to fear of failure and avoidance, while self-compassion encourages a kind understanding and an attitude toward the way that you do things, because we all do things different. And even in the face of failure, even in the face of difficulty, we all have the option of making a decision on going forward. We all do. And the thing is that we have to grasp with both hands is this idea that we have this compassion enough for ourselves and the way that we do things, that we can get them done. It's not the time, it's the effort. It's not that it takes you longer. It's the fact that you complete the task. That's the big deal. So if we can integrate all these principles into our lives, we can start seeing ourselves in a whole different life, because procrastination doesn't have to take us down the path of beating ourselves up and not getting things done. Procrastination is a form of stress relief. It is. So what are we stressed about? Well, oftentimes what we're stressed about is the fact that it's not getting done. Then we start shaming ourselves and we get into this negative loop. To step outside of the negative loop, we have to start employing some tactics like we just talked about, but also employing into the equation this idea that our psychology might be a certain way and we need to be honoring about it, and that we need to have self-compassion as we do so. That self-compassion is a very important component, because that's when we start to love ourselves and care about ourselves and see our worth. And when we start to do that, we can start taking things on a little bit better. We can start going through not just the emotions, but going through the actions that will create the change to what we're looking for. It's up to us, though, to start seeing this, and it's up to us to employ these things into our lives. So I hope you found that helpful, because let's not procrastinate another minute. Let's stop people-pleasing and worrying about what other people are going to think and all this psychological mumbo-jumbo that we get wrapped up in. The point is that we all have something to offer. We cannot offer it if we don't get into the weeds and get it done, right? And allow your timeline to be your timeline. Be honoring to it and be honoring to yourself. You deserve the compassion. All right, that's it. Don't forget, if you've missed any show notes or anything else, you can go to savingdinner.com/daily dish. We've got show notes for today going out in tomorrow's newsletter, and all the announcements, everything that I talked about, and getting yourself signed up for Monday's webinar especially, is at savingdinner.com/announcements. I really appreciate the fact that you show up. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. I will see you on next Tuesday when we do the live show. Meanwhile, don't forget, all the best of is always played Monday through Friday. All right? Peace be with you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.